يا وجيه الدين والكرم وحليف العلم والحكم.
Alright, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, bi rahmatika arhamar rahimin. So inshallah we've got a lot to cover. One of the brothers actually wanted to know about the food of the Prophet as well. So today my entire lesson actually will be around the kind of food that the Prophet ate, and also just to burst some bubbles as well about some of the weak narrations that people say that he loved particular foods, and we'll speak about that as well. So the reference I'm going to use is Shama'il al-Tirmidhi, and that's one of the greatest books. If you actually wanted to do your own research and you actually want to read about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I would recommend all of you actually to get your hands on it. And that actually speaks about each and everything about his life. So how he looked, how he walked, how he slept, how he ate, kind of foods that he ate, and also the utensils he used to eat as well. I'll get the microphone here, that's easy. I know it's screaming too much. No, it's fine, the fan's alright. I mean, that shouldn't hurt the volume in the video. Okay, so yeah, I think that's better here. So inshallah the whole thing will be around that. But before, because we want to go back to the Seerah, I actually want to spend some time on the constitution and some of the things that really happened at that time, that particular time. So we'll start the proceeding with the constitution of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and why did he put that constitution in place, and what was the benefits of that constitution being in place. So if you really look at Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were some really key points that he mentioned in the constitution. And those key points were that he made a constitution four-way. So one of the constitutions were between the Muslims, and the second part of the constitution was between the Jews, and the third part of the constitution was between the pagans, and the last part of the constitution was any other people that were living in Madina, so any other kinds of people that were living there. So if we explore the first part of the constitution, and also just to give you a brief rundown on the constitution as well, there is nothing that you can find in one document in any books of Seerah. The only person that mentions the constitution from the start to the finish is Ibn Ishaq. There's no other people actually mentions the constitution that much. And the other people that have spoken about the constitution, they haven't spoken about the constitution in great length. Waqidi and also Imam al-Dhahabi, they mention some key points. So I want to keep it simple because I've got a lot of other things on hand, because I really want to spend time with the food of the Prophet today. So even if I don't give you much details about the constitution, I'm happy to speak about that next week. So some of the things, some of the key points, he made the treaties between the Muslims, and the treaties between the Muslims are very simple. So the Muslims of Medina were called by the name of Yathrib, and the people of Makkah were called by the name of Quraish, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not that kind of a person who wanted to impose things on people. He wanted people to love the norm, the new things, and as they became the norm, that's how he forced it on people. So in the constitution he calls the people of Yathrib, And also you need to also know that there is about 70 sub-tribes between Aus and Khazraj. So what he's telling them, that you will be dealing with your own affairs with your own people, according to the laws that you had before. So any arguments or any problems that may arise within your tribes, you should be able to deal with them the way you were dealing, unless there was something which was against the Sharia, and I will advise you on that. And then he called them the people of Yathrib. And also then with the Muhajir as well, he said, I will be the person that will deal with the people of Quraish, because I am their leader, and whatever arguments or whatever issues may arise, I will be the person that will deal with them as well. And then moving on, he said to the pagans particularly, that no pagan is allowed to give refuge to a Quraishi from Makkah. And that was, he was putting a precedent forward, that these are the people who persecuted us, and now I am the one in power. So if anyone wants to come from Makkah, then they cannot come on the visa, on the protection of a pagan. If, on the other hand, if a Muslim was to sponsor someone from Makkah, then he is allowed to do that. So the only exclusive right of a Meccan or a Quraishi or a pagan to come was through a Muslim. No Jew could sponsor, a person to come from the other side, or no pagan could do that. The people who were not believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other important point was there, and again, understand, he wanted to show his political position. And we all know, we've been through the Meccan era of the Seerah, we all have learnt it, and how difficult the time was for him, and how these people, dealt with the Prophet. And he is now telling them, I am in power, and if anything you want from my state or the new state that we have built, then you have to come through me, or you have to come through a Muslim. You cannot come to Medina unless you have a visa from a Muslim. So Muslims could do that, but no Jew could do it, and no pagan could do it, and not other communities that were living over there. So the other thing was that if any problem may arise or anyone attacks Medina, everyone has to collectively come and help, financially and physically as well. So which we will learn in the Battle of Uhud. We're not far away from the battles. Inshallah, we should be able to go into the Battle of Badr before Ramadan starts. Also, I have spoken to the management. After the Ramadan, in Ramadan we're going to go for a complete break. After the Ramadan's over, we will go to the time after Aisha. So Aisha will be around 7:30, and we'll go right after Aisha, we'll have our session. So the management's happy with that. I want to work around the Maghrib at the moment, because we do have 1 month before Ramadan. So if we start at 6:45, we're not going to be able to finish by 7:30. There'll be a lot to cover. Or else we can just make it a half an hour session. It's up to you guys. We can just tone it down to half an hour, and then we can just wait for Ramadan to be over, and then we can go back to an hour session. Whichever is easy with you, consult amongst yourselves, because if we start at 6:45, there will be a time just before Ramadan in the month of March that we'll be praying very close. We actually will be praying at 7. So we'll only have literally 15 minutes. And on other days towards the mid of March, we will be praying around 7:15. So that's what we need to talk about. We cannot do it after Aisha, because right now they cannot change it, because they aren't having a memorization class. So they can only do it, they will do it afterwards, after Ramadan. She will spare, Sharon said she'll speak to the Sheikh, and she'll get that arranged for us. But for now, we will have to come with a time. Maybe we probably have to come earlier, 6:30. Or we'll see how we go. We can speak after about that. So inshallah, the other thing was, there was anyone who would attack Makkah, as I said, everyone will come together. But understand, Rasulullah did not say to the Jews and the non-Muslims that they will fight with us. That was the part of the treaty, that you will support us financially, but you will not fight with us, because he does not, and later on we'll find out, because he will not trust them completely in a battlefield. So they will be there holding the territories, but they will not be in the midst of the battle. So inshallah we'll learn about that as well. And also towards the end of the treaty was some important points. There was no jizya. For example, the jizya of a non-Muslim living in Medina, there was a tax, and they would not participate in the battle. So there was no jizya, there was no special tax. And understand, the Quranic ayahs haven't revealed yet. So there was no jizya that was mentioned. Also, the other thing that Rasulullah says in the treaty, he says that the Jews are from the same ummah, from where he calls them the ummah of Ibrahim. So they're from the same ummah that the Muslims are. So he gives them that belonging. And understand, there are so many liberal secular movements out there that said Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a bloodmonger and he was after the Jews and he killed so many Jews, and that was all lies. He was never after the Jews. I mean, if you really look at that constitution that he made, he gave every right to the Jews. Even the Jews had the rights to trial their own laws when it came to their own affairs. Their own issues were to dealt with their own laws. Everything, they could celebrate their own festivals, and they could even worship the way they liked. They had their own worship places. And there were three major tribes, you all know about them: Banu Nadir, and Banu Qurayza, and Banu Qaynuqa. So we are going to speak about them in great length, inshallah. And the first of them we will speak about in the Battle of Uhud. That's when one of the tribe is expelled. And also prior to that, we're going to speak about Banu Nadir. Banu Nadir is one of the tribes of Medina that actually assaulted. That was a physical assault on a Muslim woman when her dress was lifted. And at that point in time, Rasulullah reminds them of the treaty, and they are expelled and from Medina, and they're not allowed to live in Medina anymore. And so we are going to speak about that as well. So basically everyone agreed with that, and everyone was happy with that. Now the first thing that happened after the constitution was As'ad ibn Zurara, one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, an Ansari. He dies, and this is just like a normal person. He's a very special person in the Seerah. He's the person that was leading Salatul Jum'ah. When Rasulullah was not in Medina for that 1 year, when Mus'ab ibn Umair was there, As'ad ibn Zurara was the man who would lead the Friday prayers. And he was leading the Friday prayers in the absence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so now when Rasulullah arrives, he dies soon after that, and he's buried in Jannatul Baqi. And Jannatul Baqi, there is like numerous benefits if you die over there, because there are many hadiths. Some of the hadiths in line that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says it's not a munafiq that dies in Medina, in my city. And yes, there might be, this statement might be debatable, because in the time of Rasulullah there were munafiqeen as well. But what he's trying to say, the people who are more closer to him, and now, even if you look at now as well, there's no one permitted in Makkah as long as you're not a Muslim. I know the norm's changing. As you can see, there's so many YouTube videos nowadays where you see white people and other people who are coming to Medina and also Makkah. May Allah, and that's another tangent. I mean, if you were to know, the people in fiqh, Hanafis were very relaxed when it came to entering Jaziratul Arab and the harams. Hanafis said anyone could come in and out of the haram, as long as they had some kind of protection from the Muslims that were living over there. But other Imams were more severe when it came to their dealings. For example, Imam Shafi said only a slave could enter Makkah and Medina. He even said if you were coming for a certain reason, I mean, an example comes to mind of the French commandos in the 1979 when they came inside the Kaaba to take Juhayman out with his forces. And you know, we all like to bag Musharraf. I mean, we have to give this to Musharraf. In 1979, when Kaaba was seized by Juhayman and his forces, Musharraf was in charge of the army that was sent by Pakistan, Ziaul-Haq, to Makkah to finish the siege that was laid by the extremists inside the Kaaba. And Musharraf actually was chosen by Ziaul-Haq to go with the commandos over there. And at that time, French commandos were also the ones who went to lift the siege. And you can do your research. Juhayman was an extremist and he was a student of knowledge. And today we will learn that chicken at the Dajjaj is not a food, a staple food of the Arabs. And so they would not like it. Juhayman, when he was growing up, he was a scholar, he was becoming a scholar. When he was becoming a scholar, he would actually not eat chicken because that was not the staple food. Now, mashallah, if you tell your child that you're not going to be eating chicken, probably your child might go into depression. It's very likely if they don't get the drumstick, they might go into depression. If you said to your child that you're not going to see me for 1 week, he's going to be happy as long as he's getting the chicken. And as long as he gets the drumstick, or you know, there's so much out there. And really, I say that chicken's the worst food to eat in today's day and age. I mean it. Because you're eating the chickens which are growing to full length in 4 days or 5 days or a week. That's the worst food. That's why people ask, why are Pakistanis really tall today? Why? You know why? Because they're eating these genetically modified chickens. I'm not joking. I mean, and no, nothing against the Pakistani. Pakistanis, if you see a 6 feet and above Pakistani, that's like a blessing from Allah. Normally the average height is about 5'8", 5'9", and Brother Ismail, mashallah, is tall. He's about 6. And you are a blessing from Allah. And I know you haven't eaten those chickens because you weren't born in that genetically modified era. But yeah, nowadays the chickens that, I mean, I'm sure Abdullah loves chicken. I can see the growth that he's having, mashallah. But yeah, the people that we eat all this genetically modified, you know, we say Asians, why they're not so tall nowadays? It's because the eggs and the chickens and all these genetically modified, the injected food that we're eating, we are growing taller and bigger than normal. It's because of the food that we eat. And so Juhayman actually did not eat chicken because that was not the staple food. And Juhayman made that prophecy for his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law was actually called Qasim, and his name was Muhammad ibn Qasim. So he was a Quraishi. He said, you are the Mahdi that Allah had promised who is going to come. And he actually convinced him to be that Mahdi, and they stormed the Kaaba at the time of Fajr with weapons. That was the time in the 1978, 79, it was not that big. So they stormed the Kaaba in the morning. And you know what's the amazing thing? Do you know, you all know that mostly the people that come to Kaaba are like non-Arabs. So when Juhayman took the mic saying that we have taken over the Kaaba and we are going to purify this land. That was a day of the days of Khalid. King Khalid was a king at that time. Faisal had died, and Khalid was his brother who had taken over the throne. And when he said that, it is narrated, true story, no exaggeration, that the Pakistanis and all the non-Arabs, when he was making the speech in Arabic, they thought after Fajr Salah, Imam's making dua, and they kept on saying Ameen, Ameen. And he was threatening the people that I am about to close the doors. And everyone's saying Ameen. They're just thinking it's a collective dua going on. I mean, mashallah, Arabic language sounds like that to all the Pakistanis. Either it's inside the prayers. I mean, I've always backed the Pakistanis. The Afghans don't speak Arabic as well, so they're on the same boat. So you know, we either say Salah inside Salah Arabic, or it's while we're reading Quran, or while the Imam's making dua. That's the only times that we hear Arabic. So later on, and I said we have to give Musharraf this one, definitely, because he was chosen by Ziaul-Haq, and Ziaul-Haq actually sent him to Makkah. And that was a time when Saudi Arabia was very close to Pakistan. Zia al-Haq's era was actually the Brotherhood of Saudi, and whatever Zia al-Haq wanted, and you know the reason and the example for that, I can the had punishment, you all know, for a highway robber is you cut off their right hand and their left leg. If someone's a highway robber, and even the rapist, he's in the same. They call muharib. Okay, the Arabic word is muharib for them. So if anyone does that, either you can crucify them. Quran says, it's not my word, Surah Ma'idah is saying it. Either you crucify them, either you cut their right hand or their left leg, either you sentence them to death, either you imprison them, or you abandon, you banish them. They leave the land and they will never return. Now what happened was, there were the Hujjaj from Pakistan, and they were robbed by the Shurta in the time of Hajj, and Zia al-Haq is in power. And when Zia al-Haq finds out the Hujjaj were robbed by the police, he writes a letter to Faisal that your government, my people that went for Hajj, they were robbed by your people. The King Faisal overturned the had punishment of chopping their hands, and he said all of them their heads will be chopped off. 7 people of police that were involved in that robbery, all of them were killed and their heads were chopped off. That was the relation of Zia al-Haq with Saudi Arabia. And that's how strong the relationship was. So when they were sieged by the extremists, Zia al-Haq sent the best of the commandos to, who, the French people?
No, those people, they took over the black.
They were Muslims, they were extremists like the Daesh today.
Yeah, but you said one of them claimed he was a prophet.
Yeah, he claimed to be a Mahdi. According to Hadith, you know, we all are waiting for Mahdi. So Juhayman said to his brother-in-law, you are the Mahdi. Because his name was also Muhammad, and he was a Quraishi, he was from the Qasim, he was from the family. So understand, we are not going to recognize Mahdi, Allah will recognize the Mahdi. So the Hadith, you know, all know, when he's doing tawaf, what does the Hadith say? Yuslihu fil layla, that he will be fixed in one night. It means, it could be many meanings. Yuslihu fil layla actually could mean that either he was not the best of the people and Allah will fix him in one night, make him a scholar or make him a good person in one night. Either he was not very strong and he did not have a leadership quality, but he prayed 5 times a day and Allah will fix him in one night. So he will run away from Medina, he will be in Medina, he will run away from there and he will go into Makkah. And at that time when he's making tawaf, a sound will come, Hada Mahdi, Hada Mahdi. And that's how, and people, you should be happy, the army of Khurasan, the one with the black flag, your people will come to assist him, and they will be the best army. So they will, al-Malhamat al-Kubra, the biggest, the battle which will happen, which will, the army of Khurasan will assist him in that battle. They will pave the way for Isa to come. So Khurasanis are the one, not the black flags that the people are doing today. It will all come in these are the signs, the minor signs before the day of judgment. So yeah, so as I said, we can give that to Musharraf. You know, he was there, he was the one who actually took the siege out, and the French commandos were with him as well, and he was part of that. You can read the history. So you know, no matter what in his balance, he may have all these bad things that he's done, but he has this, that he went for the sake of Allah to take these Daesh or these extremists out of the Kaaba on the order of his leader. So, and so basically, I don't know where I was, but anyways, so going back to the other thing also that happened in that time was the marriage to Aisha radiallahu anha. Now, marriage was already done in Makkah, and I don't want to go into more detail. You can go to my YouTube channel. Actually, I've done a long lecture on that. It's an hour long. And I will not shy away from what the hadith says. I say the marriage was done, the nikah was done. The nikah for us, the non-Arabs, is different from what the Arabs. The nikah for the Arabs is consummation. For us it's different. For us it's kadba kitab. Okay, if you say nikah to the Arab, he's going to get really angry. So don't say that. I mean, for them it means consummation. And so for the word they used for the nikah, as we say, the contract, they say katba kitab. That's the contract for them. So the katba kitab was done. The contract was already done. She was 6 years old. How do we know this? It's the hadith that is mentioned by Urwa ibn Zubayr. Who is Urwa ibn Zubayr? Urwa ibn Zubayr is the nephew of Aisha radiallahu anha. And he is the person who can see Aisha without hijab. He is the son of Asma binti Abi Bakr. And he could go in and out. So he's saying that I heard from my own auntie when she was married. So now don't shy away, children. And it's not something that we should shy away from. Yes, the marriage was consummated according to that at the age of 9. I'm not going to go into much detail. Go to my channel. I have done a lecture on that. And so it's actually called in English anachronism. Anachronism means you take an event from another time and you start to use it in another time which is not relevant. So that's anachronism. What the white people and the secular people do, they are falling into the crime of anachronism. When they take an event from the past and they try to belittle Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also, we don't want to go far away. One ayah is enough. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. The man does not do anything from his desires. Whatever Allah tells him, he does it. So if Allah told him to get married, he got married. He did not have a lustful desire to be married to a woman who was a girl of 6 years old. That was the only virgin wife he had. If you were to ask, he had 11 wives. Okay, he had 11 wives. But that was the only one he had who was not married before. So, I would encourage you to watch that lecture. So he got married to Aisha radiallahu anha when he came to Madina, and that was the first of the house. So he lived with Aisha radiallahu anha right next to the masjid. And so where you see his grave today, that was a house of Aisha radiallahu anha. Jannatul Baqiyah that you see, that was his masjid. So the peace that came from Jannah, where people are all fighting today to pray, that was the masjid. The masjid is not where the imam stands, the 3-4 rows in the front, and the imam stands at the front. No, that was not the masjid. That was just the streetway, the pathway. And the masjid was where the mimbar is, the gold mimbar, where Riyadul Jannah is, Rawda is, and after, right next to it was his house. Who expanded that masjid? That was expanded in the time of the Ottomans, not the Ottomans, the Abbasid Khilafah. The Abbasids were the one who actually expanded that in the front. Why? Because the people were growing. So they took the masjid in the front. And also they included the grave inside the masjid. No Sahaba included the grave inside the masjid. The grave was never part of the masjid. Because the community was expanding, they had to make the masjid bigger, and the grave came inside the masjid. So, but we should not assume that the grave was always there. It was never there. Even when Uthman expanded the masjid, the grave was outside the masjid. It was not inside the masjid. He expanded the masjid at the back. So the masjid was probably the masjid was size of this. The scholars say about 20 square meter by 22 square meter. That was roughly the size in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I think probably roughly this size or slightly more bigger than that. That was the size. And so why did I mention the marriage to Aisha? There's a reason, and the reason being because he loved Aisha more than anyone else. And he says that a man, Amr ibn al-As, when he became a Muslim, he asked about Aisha radiallahu anha. And amazing hadith in Bukhari. And he says that, who do you love the most? Ahabbu nas ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who do you love from the people, ya Rasulullah? He said, basically he said Aisha. And when he said Aisha, that's something that the people who are married, we should also understand. There is a lesson for us. How many times when someone asks you, when you're sitting down and they ask you who do you love the most, the husband will never say you love the wife, Let's be honest. When was the last time you said when you were sitting with your friends that you loved your wife? And this was a prophet. All the men are sitting and he says he loves his wife. And that was also breaking the stereotype, because the Arab community was women were second-class citizens. And to mention her name in front of men was something very, very huge. And then he says, you know, he was like, Amr ibn al-As was actually moved. And he said, La ya Rasulallah min al-rijal. From the men, who do you love the most? And now see his words in Arabic. What does he say? Abuha. He says her father. Does not say Abu Bakr. Does not say that my friend. He says her father. He puts more emphasis on Aisha again, and he says her father. And subhanAllah, you know, some of you probably don't know, I am a marriage counselor, and I always like to speak about marriage, and probably from my lectures you already know that. And I always say, you know, when the wives come and the wives say, and they are having an argument with the husbands, they say, and the husband says, you know, why are you having an argument with me? But I love you. And the wife says, no, you don't love me. If you love me, then show me you love me. And normally men, you know, mashallah, we say it, but we show it less. And really, and I want to explain you from this, from the hadith of Rasulullah, from the Quranic ayah. Now look at the Quranic ayah, how the Quran works. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تعمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. Now if you look at that ayah, I don't want to use this ayah for activism. I don't want to use this ayah for we are the best nation. But what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in this ayah? Listen to it. He says you are the best people. After the best people, what did he speak about? Did he speak about belief? No. What did he say? You are the best people. Why? Because he said you are doing the action first. What's the action there? We're enjoining good and forbidding evil. After that he says you believe. What does that mean? It means Muslims should be people who are people of action rather than people of words. You look at today, the Muslim, mashallah, very good at putting the tables out, very good at giving the flyers, very good at handing out the Qur'ans, very good at having halaqat, seminars, you name it. But when it comes to actions, where's the actions? That's exactly what the wife is and the husbands are saying, vice versa. Even some husbands are saying that. You know, it's easy to say, I love you, I love you, I love you. Well, where is the action? Where's the love? The wife will never complain, the husband will never complain if the action was there. If you showed that love by action. Iman is important. Iman's important. I mean, Allah knew Iman was important. If you look at the level, Iman should have before enjoining good. Why did Allah put enjoining good action before Iman? Because understand the philosophy. What did the people, when the people came to Medina, early life, I mean this is very early, like we're talking about Seerah. When the people came to Medina, what were they asking for? They're asking for, how is Rasulullah in the house? People are coming, they're asking about his manners. Now understand, they're not asking about Aqidah, they're not asking about Allah, they already know this. So they're asking why? Because people have double lives. You know, we have double lives, we all. God forbid, we all have double lives. So we are something outside and we're something inside. They wanted to find out if the Prophet was like that inside as well. What did Aisha radiallahu anha said? Kana khuluquhu al-Qur'an. That his manners are Qur'an. She did not give the Qur'an to them or the fly to them. This is Islam, read it yourself. What did she say? His manners are Qur'an. So people, we all learned about Mus'ab ibn Umair. Mus'ab ibn Umair did not go with Qur'ans, bunch of Qur'ans or flyers to Medina. What did he go with? He went with his character. Why do you think we've done this a few weeks ago? Why do you think hundreds of people were waiting outside Medina to welcome Rasulullah? They haven't seen him. Why are they waiting for him? They're saying that if this is the product, how will be the teacher? If this man is so great, we want to see who the teacher is. That's why they were waiting. You know, Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala would say, if you want to know how a man is or how a husband is, he said, don't go to the mother, don't go to the father of the husband. Because father and mother, mashallah, my son is, mashallah, prays tahajjud every night. My son, you know, the Pakistani say, my putar, Johana, he is very good. But What did he say? Uthaymeen said, go to the wife, and the wife will tell you how the husband is. Now that means don't come to my house asking my wife, please. Okay, anyways, let's move on. So, Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala said this. Go to the wife will tell you exactly how the husband is. She will not lie like the mother or the father. She will not, sugarcoat. She will just say, oh, you know what? Oh, he's grumpy in the house. I don't know what happens when he comes in the house. We're all scared. The children are running inside the house, they're closing the doors. And I run inside the kitchen, even though the meal's prepared, I just put it back on the stove just so that he can smell the food and not be grumpy. I mean, really, it's the truth. And that was it. That was the final thing. Now I want to quickly jump into the food of the Prophet. And look, there is a lot to cover. Let me look at the time. I've got about 10 minutes. Let's see what we can cover in 10 minutes, inshallah. So, in 10 minutes that we have, quickly let's look at some of the foods that he liked. Now, when you look at the food of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are many things he liked. And as I said to you, I brought this Shama'il, and you guys can actually do your own, you can buy it for yourself. This is a very good book. Actually, not just that, but this is a good version. It actually gives a takhrij of the hadith as well. Because Imam Tirmidhi does put a lot of da'if hadith at times. So what this book does, it actually narrows it down. So it says that this hadith was da'if, or this one is not, and this one is not. So very quickly, some of the things that the Prophet really enjoyed eating. One of the things is the foreleg, or the front part of the sheep. This is something that he really loved. And it is said many ahadith, and in Arabic you call it ad-dira'a. And dira'a is something that he really liked. He liked it so much that this is something when he would see, he would just eat that part. So dira'a, for you to understand in Arabic, is for a man's dira'a is the hands going from the elbow all the way to the wrist. So wrist is not included. So these are the foreleg. It's the foreleg of the front two legs of the sheep or goat or lamb. Yeah. So that is what he loved. And you know what? How do we know he loved this so much? That he loved it so much, when the Jew lady put poison, it was this part of the meat that she served him. You know, when he got poisoned just before his death, the few days before his death, it was when she offered him meat, she knew that what part of meat he liked, and this is what she offered him, and he ate from it. And later on we know, he says towards the end as well, when he was dying as well, it's the taste of that poison that I still feel today in my taste, in my tongue, in my taste buds. That's something I still feel. And that was done way back. I mean, this is done exactly after Khaybar. And Khaybar is one of the last of the expeditions. So when Khaybar is done, it's one of the last of the expeditions. And Rasulullah lives about 2 years after that as well. So you can imagine he's saying he can still feel the taste of that on his tongue. So that was dira'a. And he would love dira'a so much that he would always go for that meat. And there is a hadith of Abu Ubaidah as well, that Abu Ubaidah cooked dira'a in soup, in sort of a gravy. And then he took the meat out, the dira'a out, and he gave it to him, the foreleg. And when he gave it to him, he ate it. And then he asked for another one. He took it out and he gave it. Now, a lamb or a sheep or a goat only has 2, all right? So when he finished the second one, he asked for another one. And Abu Ubaidah said, there is only 2 legs, 4 legs that a goat has. And at that point, Rasulullah said, if you had been quiet and keep on giving me what I was asking, you would have kept on getting the foreleg for me from the dish until I told you to stop. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was miraculous. I mean, this is also shows the human nature of the people, that Sahaba were normal people. Okay, so Rasulullah made them special. By following his sunnah they became special. By learning Quran they became special. Prior to that they were normal people. Me and you can also attain that special status in the society by getting close to Allah, by using these people as examples. If we want to become awliya of Allah, these are the examples that we have. Unfortunately, and I want to say this, and imams are not the examples. We're not the examples. And you know, the brothers, we're not the examples to the children. And that's why our children are looking for role models. So who are the role models? The role models are the wives of the prophets, the sahabiya, the lady, the companions of the Prophet, and the male companions of the Prophet, and the imams that have passed away. Also the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith of Rasulullah says, look for your role models in the people that have passed away. Why? Because the people who are alive, if you will see them commit a mistake or two, that will turn you off religion. And the perfect example is Nauman Ali Khan. I don't say names, but I just said it. Why? Because he was a great role model for people. People liked him. And all of a sudden, all the allegations came. Wallahu alam, they were true or not. We're not here to debate on that. But they came and many people turned off religion. It's not the problem in religion. It's the problem that people have. Remember, what did I say? It's the actions. Today we lack actions. We don't have actions. We're just giving everyone, every person, we give them the hadith of book, give them the hadith of Quran. Look at our children. I mean, why do they don't look at us as role models? I mean, we are nowhere close to the Sahaba. So they never find us. I mean, and sorry to say to the children, mashallah, they know more about the YouTubers and all these losers out there than they know about the Prophet or the Sahabas. Why? Because we let them binge on that. And God forbid, I mean, this is one of the really, one of the foods that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam really liked. And also it's mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just a fiqhi tangent that I wanted to give you, it's mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ate meat, and it was a time for prayer. Salama mentions this. It was a time for prayer. He ate meat, roasted meat, and she made a roasted meat for him, and he ate it, and after that he went and prayed and did not make wudu. Now the tangent, the fiqhi tangent is, prior to coming to Medina, any cooked meat that was cooked or made, we had to, something that had touched the fire, you had to make wudu, you had to purify yourself. And that was it. That was and later on this was abrogated. So whenever Muslims after that would eat meat, they did not have to do it unless it was the camel's meat. So camel's meat was something that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would always make wudu. But if you are Hanafi, you're safe. Imam Abu Hanifa said that meat applies to everything. So the Hanafis actually do not make wudu even after the camel. But if you're anyone else who follows any other fiqh, they actually make wudu after the meat. There are many other things as well we need to cover in food. Inshallah, the next week also we are going to focus on food. I will bring an end to it, but we still have some moment or two. I'm happy to take questions if you've got any. If not, I'm happy to take questions. Could be any random questions.
I've got a question regarding about the Aisha, whether Prophet said, I love Aisha. Wasn't Khadija first wife?
Yeah, so very good question. Khadija was also really well loved, but mostly Khadija was in the time which was prior to the prophethood. And after the prophethood, she died after Shu'ab Bani Abdul Muttalib, Bani Abu Talib, sorry. So that was the concentration camp where they kept the Muslim for 2.5 years. So if you go back to Malay, she died after that, and he really loved her. So, and understand, the love for Khadija was even more than Aisha. But the hadith, why are more for Aisha, which we see, because she was a very smart woman. She was a muhadditha. She is the only lady who narrated most of the hadith. All these food hadith that we are learning about from Shama'il al-Tirmidhi, most of them come from Aisha. Most of the hadith of intimacy of husband and wife come from Aisha. Aisha radiallahu anha would ask difficult questions to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was because of her innocence and she wanted to learn Islam. And Aisha radiallahu anha is a very, very special person. Understand and I always use this word for the other sect, because I don't like to, because I do have followers from the other sect as well. I call them brothers from another mother. And I really want to tell them, I mean, they really hate Aisha's father and Omar. And for them, I really want to tell you, if the Prophet hated Aisha and Abu Bakr or Omar, why would he make them so close to himself? Why would he take the daughters from them? Hafsa was a daughter of Omar. Aisha was the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And if Rasulullah really hated Usman, and if Usman radiallahu anhu was a munafiq, why would he give him two of his own daughters to get married to? So, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. So this is, some people like to talk about the Sahaba, and we should be very careful. We should love Sahaba. And now I always say this, when you look at the Pakistani masjid, if you've been for the khutbah, they always, read this in the khutbah, فَمَنْ أَحَبَّهُمْ فَبِحُبِّ أَحَبَّهُمْ فَمَنْ أَبْغَدَهُمْ فَبِبُغْضِ أَبْغَدَهُمْ. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying about the Sahaba, whoever loves them, my love's for them. Whoever hates them, then my hate is for them as well. So you need to understand the Sahabas are very, very special people. And we cannot just single out one Sahaba over the other and say this one's bad or that one's bad. Sahabas are great people. They're the role models for me and you. Yes? Sorry, what was that? Oh yeah, these are, they're talking about Aqidah. So more into Shahada, and then going into Salah, and the pillars, the arkan of Islam. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفر الله إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.
نبي 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 وصلاة الله خالقنا تتغشى سيد الأمم مصطفى 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 أحمد المختار سيدنا عدد الأوراق والتيام كامل 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 كامل